So again, a very, very fascinating question. The Torah gives us the story of creation at the beginning of Genesis. And the question is, how literal is that intended to be? The truth of the matter is, I have to be honest, certainly most commentaries and most rabbinical literature does assume that it's a very literal story. However, there are views within our sages, which are authoritative views, that underscore the fact that the story of creation, certainly until you come to the flood, until you come to Abraham, which is later, contains so many deep secrets that cannot be fully understood, that to some degree it is possible that the Torah might be speaking in metaphorical or allegorical terms. So, for example, in terms of how long are the 6 days, there may be some discussion about that. Again, many commentaries do say the 6 days were 24 hours, but some say that perhaps there may be a broader interpretation. I do want to point out one general idea that I think is very helpful, both in terms of understanding the Genesis narrative and understanding the whole Torah. You will often find that people will pose a certain question. Is the Torah speaking historically, or is the Torah speaking metaphorically? As if to say, these are two mutually exclusive alternatives, metaphor or history. And in truth, that may very well be a false dichotomy. Because even when the Torah is speaking in a literal historical mode, ultimately it is explaining and expressing metaphors for spiritual archetypes. So, for example, as a believing Jew, I certainly believe that Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were literal people who are the founders of the Jewish people. I certainly believe that we were slaves in Egypt and God took us out of Egypt. At the same time, we also underscore that the Avot and the Imahot are prototypes of spiritual forces. Avraham represents the divine midah of chesed, loving kindness, and Yitzchak represents gevura, inner strength, and Yaakov is tiferet, beauty. And Yetziat Mitzrayim is a prototype for the slavery and the bondage of the neshama in all of the spiritual temptations of the world. So consequently, the notion that history and metaphor are mutually exclusive is simply a false dichotomy, because the history itself is metaphorical for higher and deeper spiritual truths. So if the question becomes, is the story of Bereshit, is the story of Adam and Eve, is the story of the tree of knowledge, and the story of the snake, are they metaphors for deeper realities regarding temptation? The answer is most certainly yes, but that does not at all negate their literal meaning as well. The Torah, in effect, uses history as metaphor for deeper spiritual principles that permeate the deep structure of the universe.